Hi, I just got home and I wanted to do a little bit of a part two because I thought of a couple things that I didn't mention in the last video. So with regards to taking your power back and whatnot, it's also important to be mindful of not just individual people, but things that get projected onto you when you're out in public. So, for instance, if you're in a really hectic environment or you go to like a concert or a grocery store where there's maybe your patience is being tested or there's a lot of people, it's like one of the reasons I would never go out on like a Black Friday after Thanksgiving because, oh my gosh, it's too hectic. It's too much emotion for me. That would be like, oh my God. In this day and age, I could handle it, but it's not something that would bring me any kind of pleasure or joy. I can tell you that right now. Being around all of that intensity, that's no fun for me. Could I handle it? Yeah, for sure. Would I want to? No. And that's part of taking your power back, is you get to choose what environments you want to put yourself into. Don't allow others to tell you what you absolutely have to do. You know, oh, well, this is for this, and you really need to be there. But if you wake up in such a way that day that you are, maybe you don't feel well, or you didn't get enough sleep, or whatever, and you know you're already more emotionally vulnerable, you want to be mindful of that and develop your boundaries accordingly, okay? That's a big thing, is you get a lot of people out here telling everyone what they should or shouldn't be doing. Shaming, right? And because we are social animals at core, right? We learn socially. This is why it's great to socialize toddlers where they're around other kids, because that inspires them to do more. I was just talking to someone who has a 5-month-old, and she was saying how when she gets her baby around other babies and kids that are like maybe a year older, she can see how that impacts her child, because now her child is trying to crawl, or her child is trying to emulate these other children. And that's one of the only times in our life where it's really good. Because there's a lot of people trying to be like other people out here as adults, and that's not overly healthy. So taking your power back is also saying, is this serving me, or is this just what's expected of me? Is this am I just trying to fit in, or am I actually feeling good about the choices I'm making? Okay. And at no point am I talking about breaking laws or anything like that. No. I'm also not talking about throwing people under the bus. Always do no harm if you can avoid it, right? There are times where we can't avoid it. Like if someone has feelings for you, but you don't reciprocate those feelings, you don't want to pretend, because you'll only end up hurting them more in the long run, and yourself. So it's important to be authentic, and being authentic and showing up as yourself in your true essence, your true feelings, and being honest about it without oversharing. Not everyone's privy to your information, nor do they need to be. That type of stuff needs to be earned and developed within a healthy dynamic. Okay. So with regards to that, reciprocity is good in relationships. However, in healthy relationships, that develops over time. All right. But you're going to have a lot of people telling you should do this, you shouldn't do that, whether it's their belief systems, their customs, their whatever. Doesn't make it yours. Doesn't have to be, because as we learn, and we're meant to continue to learn, question, grow, learn. And as you do, sometimes our beliefs change a little bit. When I was little, I believed in Santa. Point in case, right? So these things evolve. I believe in a lot of things when I was little, and then I learned. Okay? Sometimes we believe that things are our responsibility or our fault, and they're not. And we learn, right? So I tapped a little bit on gossip. Okay. It's not a healthy form of communication. It's not healthy at all, especially when we throw hyperbole in there, which most people that are addicted to gossip, and people can get addicted to it, they tend to exaggerate. All right. So they might fill in the blanks or plant little seeds like, yeah, but I think this, or I heard that, or da da da. And that may be a blatant lie, or it may be just an exaggeration of truth. Okay. Or maybe your own speculation based on your own insecurities and unhealed aspects. Because that's usually where we jump to those conclusions from, is what we need to work on within ourselves. And we're either not doing that and projecting it onto others by speculating that this must have been their motivation, because maybe that would have been mine. I don't know. These are all things that we can learn about people based on the conclusions they jump to, conclusions, because it's not necessarily based in fact, or the behaviors they engage in. So when I see someone who likes to gossip, that tells me a few things. One, they're not working on themselves. They're too busy projecting ideas onto other people to control other people's ideas of that person. Or they're also out there trying to get an emotional reaction off of people because maybe that's what they feed on. It's what we call an emotional vampire, if you will. Usually we equate that to narcissism to some degree, but it doesn't have to be the same thing. It's still an emotional vampire. I'm going to try and make you feel a certain way, and I'm going to watch your reaction, and I'm going to feed on that somehow. And I'm not talking like food. Hello. I'm talking about just, wow, that's a rush. When I can get someone that excited or that emotional or that this or that, that's control, that's power, and it goes right to the head and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, all the rabbit holes. Not healthy either way. Gossip is not healthy. So if you find yourself constantly gossiping, it usually means you're not working on yourself. Now, whether that's out of being, maybe it's just a distraction that excites you. Or maybe you're lazy. I don't know. Everyone's different. Some people would rather never look in the mirror and just focus on making up stories about other people and seeing people's reactions to that, and that's exciting for them. And gossip can be a lot of things. It's not just about making up stories about people you know. It could be making up stories around what's happening in your world or your environment. As long as you're getting some kind of an emotional reaction or some level of control from it, call it what you will. Words have power though, right? Be mindful of that. I always say intuition whispers, fear, control, all of those things that are very earthbound, they yell. So if I have someone trying to trigger me on some level emotionally, trying to get me excited or upset or da 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 da, that says a lot about them. And therefore, those are usually people I dismiss right away as far as what they're saying. I observe it, I don't absorb it. Because I pay attention to the energy. What are you actually putting out there? You can disguise it as facts. You can disguise it as this, that, or whatever. In fact, the best lies are based in some semblance of truth. However, usually if you're trying to emotionally manipulate me, you're probably trying to get something out of me. And what could that possibly be? I don't know. It's going to be different from person to person, situation to situation. But that is part of giving away your power. If your mood is going to be dependent on what so-and-so says to you or what so-and-so brings to you, then that's giving your power away. It's kind of like if my decision has to be run through the filter of someone else's opinion, that's giving my power away. And again, I don't want to say should because that's shaming, but at the end of the day, I am capable of making my own choices based on how I feel. and then running it through the filter of, is this going to harm anyone in a way that's avoidable? Okay. Because like I said, sometimes it seems like harm. However, it's the least harm that you can do within that scenario. Because leading people on or enabling them is not helping them. Right? If you never potty train a child and keep them in diapers or depends, are you helping them? No. Maybe you're helping yourself because now I don't have to deal with a screaming child who doesn't want to learn how to go on the potty. Okay. That's not a common scenario. I'm just using it over the top, a little irreverence. But, it happens in life. Some people, they need to, and it's not for me to determine. I just look at patterns. If someone's always coming to me with emotion and I give them advice or I try and steer them in the right direction because they're asking me to, because I don't really try to, push myself on people. And they continue to do the same thing and continue to come back to me, but they're not taking any of my advice. Well, that's enabling. They're getting something out of it. Maybe that's I'm validating them on some level, but they don't want to do the work. So I'm going to pull back. Because that's not healthy for either party. All right. So be mindful of where you give your power away. And also be mindful of manipulation from others and from yourself. Are you manipulating others unawares because you're trying to get a need met that isn't necessarily aligned with anyone's best and highest good, but more of a maybe distorted belief system of this is how it's supposed to be because this is how I learned it was supposed to be. And I'm unwilling to learn beyond that because maybe I'm stubborn or maybe I'm just fixed in nature, whatever. At no point should we have to change who we are, but we do want to evolve and become a better version of ourselves. And we can't do that if we're too fixed to be able to learn and grow. So take what you can, take what makes sense. I hope it helps. But yeah, there are certain toxic behaviors. Gossip's one of them. If someone, all they can do is talk about others, or all they can do is talk about the news, or talk about this, or talk about that, but they're not actually showing up differently. They're not learning how to manage some of that. And I'm generalizing again. Not everyone is going to fall into these categories. But that's where discernment comes in. Trust yourself. Trust your discernment. Unless you see patterns of maybe I've been making poor decisions, or I've been discerning in this way, but it's not actually serving, or I'm noticing, or I've learned that maybe I was wrong about this person or this situation. Be willing to grow is my point. None of us have all the answers, even when we think we do or we believe we do. Really, really hard. I always say 2 inherent facts are going to happen when we pass along, when we transition to the next afterlife, whatever you want to call it. Okay. It's going to be 1, that we were all right, and 2, that we were all wrong. For every belief you have, chances are you're not 100% right. Okay. And I don't care what that belief is. And I accept this in my own life too. I'm not just projecting it out to people. These are things that I live by. And this is why I don't put any particular population down for any reason. Because I know just because I believe a certain way doesn't make it 100% true. So who am I to judge others when I got enough in my own mirror to work on? As do you. So spend more time with that if you really want to make change in this world. That's taking back your power. Stop allowing people to dictate your life. And that's if you do. If this doesn't resonate with you at all, then you would have already shut it off and you wouldn't hear this part anyway. So have a great one, and I'll talk again soon. All right. Bye.